Hello, my beautiful people. So, I want to make sure that I get this out because I don't want to forget anything. So, I did a past life, like a audio thing with Dr. Brian Weiss. I'll link that below in case you want to try it. Definitely find the version without ads because that really can screw up your experience. But basically, I followed along. I sat in a comfy chair, and I just want to talk about things before I forget them. So, it is 7:18 in the morning, and the bells of my people who text me are ringing along. All right, so basically, you sit in a comfy chair, and Dr. Weiss explains, how the process works, and he does explain that you're in control the whole time, and that is true because of the ad things that came up. Like I had to shut those off, but I was able to go right back in to I was right able to go right back into the state that I was in. So there's three parts to the regression. The first part is he walks you through. Oh, my cats are fighting at my feet, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Um, he walks you through three parts, and the first one is to remember something from your childhood. And the thing that I remembered was being electrocuted. If you've watched the channel, you know that I bit an electrical cord when I was 3. My body was arcing. My father saved my life and rushed me to the hospital. And I had facial reconstruction surgery, and I have a huge scar that goes up the inside of my face right here. So, what's interesting about that is that my other side of my, like every year in winter I get chapped lips, and forever. And when I was a child, I had to wear a special cream. I had to put a special cream on for the scar, and also I had freckles because I was a redhead, and there was like a line in the freckles because of where the scarring was. They had to use skin from somewhere else on my face, probably my ass. That makes so much sense. But anyway, but so it was to like remember everything, and I was 3, so I don't remember a lot. But what I remember is it must have been like a Sunday, and the house was really empty, and it must have been kind of like in the morning, and I remember that the fan was on a table, and I had crawled or walked or somehow I made it over to the plug, and I had pulled the plug out and I put it in my mouth, and I thought it was chocolate. Um, Young Padawan, back in the olden days, plugs were only two pronged and they were like little brown squares. So it's not like plugs today, right? They looked like little squares of chocolate. I think my mom had gotten a box of chocolates from someone, and that's why I thought it was like a piece of dropped chocolate. But what struck me in this remembering of it, in this particular regression, is that there was nobody around, and that sort of sums up my childhood. Like nobody was around. Nobody was ever looking out for me, and like nobody read to me, nobody played with me. Like I had older brothers, but of course they didn't want to be bothered with their little sister. So it was just a very, very shocking sense of loneliness. I don't know, like it was crazy just thinking about that. Because it did color a lot. I was out of school for a while, or daycare or whatever, and you know, I guess I wasn't in school, so I wouldn't have missed school. Nobody knew it happened. That's it. Nobody knew that why I was in the hospital, because nobody told anybody. Because I have a brother that drowned, right? And so then, and that by an accident, and nobody was watching him either. So there's probably secrecy around it, or whatever. I don't know. That's something to explore, really. Like nobody really knew about it, and I was never allowed to talk about it. What was the other thing? I was never really allowed to talk about it. I had to have this cream, which I would have to get refilled every year, and I used that cream up until I was like 16, because my mouth would the scars right on the side of my mouth, and I wouldn't be able to open my mouth to eat. Oh, interesting. So that's what I went to, and it's interesting because Tracy had posted, that I had gone through that experience of, and she was probably assuming the near death experience that I had with when I had my son, I don't believe that I had fully crossed over. I think I was just in a lot of scary trouble and close by. But it certainly has made me appreciate life. And I've always been that way, even as a little girl. So maybe that is what happened when I was a little girl. So if I had a hypnotherapist, that's probably something I would explore in my own life. So then the second thing that Dr. Weiss has you do is you go through imagining being in the womb. And that was harder. That was a little harder, like what did you experience? Like how were you connected to your mother? And I was very close to my mother. So when I say this, it's not because I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. I did. But I felt not wanted. And I know now why I wasn't wanted. Every family has their skeletons. And when you learn that you're the skeleton, like I was the skeleton in the closet. So, there was an ignoring, like, not an active, like, let's try to get rid of this, but, because that, my family wasn't like that, but there was a not wanting, not an excitement, when I had my babies, both of them, I was so excited to have them. There wasn't that. There was, like, drinking and smoking and, just like, I was the, fourth or fifth, I was the fifth baby coming through that channel. And the circumstances under which I was conceived, I was a mistake. So, so that sort of permeates. I've never felt attached to my home. I'm a very sentimental person. So it always strikes me that I'm not tied to any place as home. And I've never been. Like the house I grew up in, people will think, oh, that's the house I grew up in. I drive by it all the time because my brother lives near it. I don't feel anything. And I always think, like, I should feel bad that I don't feel anything. But and during the regression, I thought, I didn't have a particularly happy childhood. It was, there are children who have way worse childhoods than I have had. I wasn't beaten. I wasn't starved. I wasn't abused in that kind of way. I wasn't abused at all. I didn't have a horrible childhood, but I didn't have a particularly happy one. I wasn't really wanted. Nobody really paid attention to me. I cried a lot to get attention, but, it didn't always work. So, interesting. So then the third part is that you, then he takes you through a door. And mine was a beautiful fairy door, oak with flowers. You go to this light, you walk through this light, and then you go into something and you look around. And I was in a forest with giant rocks and, like caves and stuff, and everybody was wearing white, but there were only women there, and they were wearing white, and they had hoods, but the hoods were down, and we were trying to hide and get away from something, and I was leading everybody out of this, like, glen, and it was fascinating. And so, like, I just had this image of me, like muddy, like, crawling up a hill, and the women following me, we all had, like, blondish hair. My hair wasn't curly, but we were hiding, and there was this understanding that all of the men had died. All of our husbands and fathers and sons had been killed, and we were hiding and coming out of something. And then he has you move forward. He has you move forward to the end of the situation that you're thinking of. And the end of it was that we had just assimilated into society, but we continued to meet privately, but we never spoke of where we came from. No idea where that comes from. No idea. None at all. So, the whole time this is, and then he brings you back, and he brings you back out of the thing. The whole time this is going, my cats are flipping out. They're making all this noise. They're, like, knocking things around. They're, like so noisy. And one of the things that always comes when I meditate is watch the cats. Keep an eye on the cats. Pay attention to the cats. And even now, when I started talking about this, the cats were at my feet fighting. Like, at my feet, wrestling, which they never do. These two cats especially. So, it's just like a sign from spirit, like, pay attention. This is true. Told you to pay attention to cats. When the cats are active and having a thing, that, something's going on spiritually. And so I think I'm meant to learn more about this message, and the message that I got, because it was like, he asks, like, what are you supposed to learn? It's kooky. You can think it's kooky. I don't care. The message that I got was that the world is going to go to a dark place, and it's going to be women who fix it, because we were a goddess culture, and women created peace, and men came and ruined that peace with war. It's going to take women to restore it worldwide. Who am I to judge what spirit says? It is interesting that there are more women leaders, but in some of the strongholds there are no women leaders. In the places that promote war, there aren't women in leadership. Just saying. So, interesting. So, I wanted to get that out. I wanted to make sure that I remembered it. I don't know that I'm going to publish this video, but I wanted to at least get it out for myself. And maybe I'll share it with you. I hope I share it with you, because I'd be interested in your analysis. All right, wishing you all the best in light and love. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.